Saw fit to allow me to stay as president, as real president, instead of acting president.
Yeah,
there we go. So I would like to introduce the rest of the board, starting with my new vice president, Chris.
Thank you. I'll keep it short. My name is Chris. I've been here for about a year now. I'm in love with Savannah and our neighborhood, and I want to keep it growing and keep it as a community. So looking forward to working with all of you and hearing from you all. Just one note, we do have this QR code that's at the front desk. We might pass it around, but we want to hear from you all. We want to hear your comments and suggestions, because again, we want to keep this community growing and prosperous. So if you have the time, make sure you fill it out so we can hear from you. All right? Thanks.
Hey there, great turnout. I'm so glad to see everybody here. I'm Barry Atwood, and I'm the secretary on this board. And I just wanted to say a quick thing about ways and means that we're evolving to communicate with you. I know the last couple of years have been tough, but we have a few ways that you can reach out to us. I guess you'll just have to decide what's best for you. But up on the front table, there's one of these. You could take a picture of it with your phone or whatever. But for day-to-day, like in-the-moment kind of conversations, I really recommend the Thomas Square Chat on Facebook. You can just search Thomas Square Chat. It's got a longer name than that, but I think that's a good place to express your concerns in a very civil, discourse way. Anyway, and we are trying to monitor that to some degree, and we definitely read it, all of us on the board, so it's a good way to reach out. The other thing is, Chris, who you just heard from, and Renee are working on our Instagram account. There's a QR on here if you decide you want to scan that, but it's Thomas Square SAV, and so that would be your more visual interface if you would like something pleasant and visual. And then on here is our regular old email address if you need to write us something that is more private or more lengthy or what have you. One of us on the board will read it, and then they'll share it with the rest of us so we know what your issue is, and it will be responded to. We also have a legacy website, which I am not really encouraging, but it's thomassquare.org. We're trying to decide what to do with the website. It does have a contact us thing on there, so if you just happen to end up there, you can reach out to us. Obviously, since we're introducing ourselves, you can always speak to one of us, especially if you know us or our neighbor or what have you. And then I guess beyond that, I'm going to turn it over. Anything else I should add? And here's Amy. Thank you.
Well, Barry said everything, so. I'm Amy Bodek, I'm on the board as well. And yeah, we just want to make sure that we are getting the information out, so we ask everybody to help us. And if there's any other suggestions or ways that we can make sure, this is a great turnout, we're really happy to see everybody. And, just let us know what we can do for you.
And I believe everyone knows Virginia Mobley. She is on the board as well. We'll give her the microphone real quick, but she will also be talking in a few minutes about the drain issue.
Good evening, I'm Virginia Mobley. Sorry I'm making you turn around, but I started Thomas Square Neighborhood Association about 23 years ago, or a little bit longer, and I'm glad to see all of you here tonight, and I appreciate you coming out. An update on the railroad quiet zone. I'm sure, first thing, I am sure you have all seen the new markings on the streets that mark the railroad crossings. I know from the times my phone rang that a lot of people have seen them. That is part of the safety education program that the railroad has instituted in the area as part of the quiet, it's all part of the quiet zone application. But we are waiting on the equipment for 39th, Bolton, and Wahlberg. It's backed up for part delays. The contractor is meeting with the city this week to talk about the where we stand and what the timeline is going to be. And the engineering work is completed for 38th and Lincoln Street, and it's out for quotes so we can go ahead. We still don't have anything from the DOT on Bull Street, so just a quick update is that when the quiet zone goes into effect, it will end at Drayton Street. From that point on, they will be blowing the horns because we can't get the intersection, the state DOT to design safety arms for Bull Street.
Thank you, and we appreciate all the hard work you put into that. Real quick, Renee is not a public speaker, but she's going to say hello.
Hey everyone, great to see you tonight.
And we hope to have mingle time after everything else is done so everyone can speak in person. Do I have other board members who haven't spoken yet? Not sure. Okay. So we had hoped to have Susan Broker here to talk about St. Pat's, but she is busy down at City Hall and with her house being flooded. And I've heard her give this speech about 8 times now, so I think I can do it. I'm just going to talk real quick about the 3 main changes they've made to St. Pat's this year, and the fact that this is an ongoing process. So please, take notes, take pictures, let us know what you think is working, what is not working. The main thing that we're concerned with is that the Go Cup zone is being extended all the way out to Victory Drive and to the Truman for 1 day only, for the 17th. Okay? Also, they are discouraging the party buses from out of town. They're not allowing them downtown, but we are maybe concerned they might try to show up in Starland, especially if they know that the Go Cup zone is extended, so keep an eye out for that. Take pictures if you see it. And the last thing is more of a downtown thing, closer to the river, about the uses in the street and whatnot. And that's really about it. But just the fact that you need to keep in mind is this is an ongoing process. So pay attention to it. Tell us what you like, what you didn't like. It's going to be revised as we go on. Because in the next 2 years, St. Patrick's Day is going to be on a Friday and then a Saturday. So it'll be even crazier as we go on. Curtis, what you got?
I had a question. So if the Go Cup zone is only for the day, does that mean that the bars are going to stop giving out the Go Cups at 12:01 a.m. Friday?
Because you asked that question, and I put it to Susan last night, she checked on that, and it will be until close. So it won't be until a minute after midnight or whatever. So end of business on the 17th.
Thanks for the
So,
question.
yep, no problem. And thank you for asking the question because they hadn't thought of it apparently. So now we did the social media update. Do we have Amy here to talk about the litter pickup? Yes.
Hey everyone, just wanted to tell you guys that March 26th, it's a Saturday, we do the great litter pickup here. It's throughout the city, but Thomas Square has held this for 4 times now about. It's a lot of fun, there's free bagels and coffee, and then you get to win prizes from the scavenger hunt, and there's an after party at Starland Yard, so it is actually a lot of fun. We've picked up a lot of trash over the last couple of years, so really hope you guys will come out. If you don't sign up, yeah?
Go ahead.
Oh.
I was just gonna comment, if you have a centralized place where you're gonna put all the garbage, let me know so we can have city staff.
It should be already there because it'll be actually at the Thomas Square Park. So I believe Carlos knows. And then if you don't register online, we will have extra kits, so we'll give you the gloves, grabbers, trash bags, all that stuff that you need. So feel free to show up day of if you didn't sign up. All right, so technically starts at 8:30 to get coffee, but the pickup is sometime between 9 and 11:30. You can just show up by then, as long as your trash is back in the park by 12:30.
What's the date again?
26th, actually be at the park.
Okay. At the park attached to the library.
And the flyers are actually over there too.
Okay, now quickly we're going to have Mr. Cabrera, I believe, speak about code enforcement in relation to recent short-term rental stuff.
Hi everybody, I'm the Senior Code Compliance Officer, Luis Cabrera. I work with the City of Savannah Code Compliance Department. So yeah, we've been dealing with a lot of short-term vacation rentals lately, being able to run illegally. Just wanted to give you guys an update on that. We do take enforcement on that. We just, whenever we do receive complaints through 311, just make sure to, add the website link where they're coming from. It helps us determine where the actual short-term vacation rental is being operated at. Usually we'll first give them a citation. If they continue to run the short-term vacation rental, we'll continue to give them another citation over time. And basically, there's been a lot of that been happening lately. So we do deal with other things like housing code violations and debris, so we might not put too much focus on it, but if we do get the complaints, we will try to get it out of the way. Not sure if there's anything else. That's it for now, all right.
Are you leaving us some cards to hit out people?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So if y'all have other questions and whatnot, you can address them to him or to the board. But right now, we're going to go ahead and move on to Travis Stringer and the Foram Group and their presentation about Starland Village. Okay. And I do want to point out that we are, do have the mayor in attendance. Hello, Mr. Van Johnson. So happy to have him at our first meeting here in 2 years.
Okay, hey everybody, my name is Travis Stringer. We'll start with a little introduction of myself and our development partners, as well as our architect. We're going to appreciate allowing us to have some time during your neighborhood meeting. And, you know, from the very beginning of this project and discussions, we've always been trying to be at least open up from the neighborhood. This is not our first neighborhood meeting regarding this project. This is not the first meeting regarding this project that we've had with the neighborhood. And just so everybody knows as well, I've been a resident of this neighborhood for going on 8 years now. I'm the CEO of Foram Group. We're a third generation family real estate investment company in the Southeast. We've been invested in Savannah for about 24 years now. I'll hand it over to our development partners for their introduction.
Hi, my name is Victor Abent. I'm with Equus Development Partners out of Charleston. I've been developing throughout the Southeast for about 35 years. I'll hand it to Ashley.
Hi, my name is Ashley Day. I'm also with Equus Development Partners out of Charleston, and I've been working with Vic for about 6 years. We've done a couple projects in Savannah, and excited about this project.
We're obviously about to jump into the presentation of the design concepts of the new south building that we're proposing. On the south end of the project, just south of the historic church, Epworth Church. This is David Hutchinson with SGA.
Okay. Hi, folks. I'm David Hutchinson. I'm an architect. I actually am in Charlotte, but this is my first business trip to Savannah. I've been here many times for pleasure, so I'm honored to be here. And I love Savannah. I've had my family here many times. And so, but I have not explored this part of Savannah. So I did that today. If you were out walking around today, you probably saw me. I got here about 1 o'clock, and I've covered all those streets right there. As an architect, we're all specialists, like every profession. I'm a designer. We have project managers, and project architects, and a whole team of other folks. Our project manager on one of our Zoom calls this week, as a matter of fact, he said, well, don't ask Hutch that, that's me. Because all he does is draw pretty pictures. Am I right? He said that. That's the second time he said that. But I want you to know that there's a lot of thought that goes into these pretty pictures, as he says. And we've thought long and hard about how to approach this project. And it's not lost on me the importance that this project is for you folks. I've been in those chairs, I've been in a chair just like that, on the other side of this microphone. And so I think I know what your concerns about are. And so I hope today we can address those and make you feel comfortable about what you're going to have in your neighborhood, hopefully. So let's go ahead and get to the next one, please, Travis. You all know where the property is, I hope, by now. In the next slide, we're going to turn it 90 degrees, and we're going to face it from your right. So go ahead and do that. This is the project site. The church on the right, and the education building is where the yellow box is where this project will become. Go ahead. It's important whenever we start a project to fully and great ourselves with the site, understand it, understand the materials, understand the vernacular. And so these were from Google Earth. I've been looking all over Google Earth for many months, trying to make sure that what we're doing is appropriate. The church is the starting point, was the starting point for me. Yes.
If you said it was so important to be there and understand the vernacular of it, why was the first time that you visited here at 1 p.m. today?
Well, because of Google Earth. You know, that makes it easier. You know, it's just
I like pretty pictures on Google Earth as well, but you know, Savannah's a pretty unique space. You might want to meet all the people around.
Yep.
So let me interject real quick. We're going to have plenty of time for commentary and questions at the end, so let's let them do the presentation.
Of course.
Okay.
My bad.
So the church was a starting point for materials and other outlying buildings. So what I wanted to point out here is the things that we were able to use and connect to our new project, water table. This is what a water table is called, this band of stone here. The granite base, stone base, the head molding. So some of these features you'll see on the project once that comes up. Go ahead. Education building. Go ahead. We'll just go through all three of these from all the different angles. So this will be coming down, and this is from DeSoto. So we wanted to make you understand that, you know, as in any residential project, the good news is that there's more eyes on the street. There's more security, more opportunity for street activity. Go ahead. So this is the view from Bull Street, from the churches there on the right, through the trees. Now we're gonna, obviously the trees are very important to the neighborhood. Go ahead. So we're using the materials that we've seen, the brick. This is horizontal siding, that all of the gray, the light gray areas. We've got a courtyard in the middle. The entrance to the building is here. So all along the street is glass. These are units actually. So there's front porches here. These are front porches here and here. And then the leasing office here. And then there is what we're going to call an artist alley. So what the developers wanted to make sure that I understood is we're going to want to provide opportunities for there to be artwork by local artists. So that area to the right will be an area where that can happen. Also on the side of the building here, and then you'll see it later, is one here and around the building to the left against DeSoto. Go ahead. So these are the things that artwork by local artists opportunities. The 5th floor is stepped back, so there's less impact on the sidewalk from the street. Recessed balconies. We've got, when you look up at the balconies, you'll see wood underneath the balconies, which is very important because, you know, this is a human scale building. We want to make sure that everything that we do is understood and comfortable to the pedestrian. So when they look up at the building, these are wood underneath the balconies. These are arched openings, reflective of what we have going on at the church. The courtyard is about a 40-foot gap in the building. We think that it really will be, you know, a visual positive influence on the neighborhood. Go ahead. Shows the scale against the church. The church is 53 feet tall. We're at the 58-foot mark, which is the maximum height allowed in the zoning. Go ahead. bird's eye view. Now remember, I've taken away all the trees, so we can't see that. So I obviously wanted you to see what the building looks like, and then we'll have some images later which will show the trees. But I think the courtyard is a big piece of this in providing connectivity to the sidewalk. There will be got a balcony up here where folks can feel that connectivity to the street. Here, these are irrigated planters at the courtyard edge. The floor level of these porches are about 30 inches above the sidewalk level. So, go ahead. The courtyard. Dark green at the top, I think, will help the building recede and its impact on the street, have less impact on the street. You'll see the artist alley over there to the right. Go ahead. On the street level from 38th. And then keep going. We have pergolas. Oh, okay. View showing the artist alley. So there'll be opportunities for these artists to, and we'll provide areas specific for that function down in here, so that can change over time. These pergolas to the right are mimic the pergolas that we have over on the top floor, on the 5th floor of the units. Go ahead. The center section below the courtyard. So it'll feel smaller, we hope. That's the idea, is that it would feel smaller because this center section is only 1 story. And so you'll open up to the sky, more sunlight getting down to Bull Street. Go ahead. Looking north on Bull. Starting to see the trees impact on the facade. So this is an existing view. So you'll see the church, the education building just beyond. In the next slide, you'll see the same approximate view with our new building. Oh, that got pulled out. Sorry. So we're back on DeSoto, in the education building in the white. So go ahead. So that's the back. Parking underneath. Balconies all aligned. So it's a traditional architectural style that we're trying to adhere to. So it's a simpler architectural style. There's not a whole lot of complexity to it. There's no misunderstood angles or features. Go ahead. It's the view looking north on DeSoto. So this Shaw architecture building right there on the right, there's some existing artwork. So I think that the idea we drew from that, opportunities to continue that language on the building. Go ahead. This is another location opportunity for artwork there. Go ahead. Looking north on Bull Street, that's Shaw architecture. Go ahead. Same view. Go ahead. So we're back to the concept without the trees in front. So we're going to take obviously a lot of care to make sure that the trees are well cared for. The arborist will be involved in any pruning that happens. When I was out there today, they're actually pruned back pretty well and ready for this building. I don't think that there may be one tree down here that will have to be pruned, maybe one limb or something. But I hope that you all feel comfortable with what we're proposing. We worked really hard. We have yes.
So you're gonna work with our current arborists to make sure that our trees, generational trees stay absolutely in the right of way?
What was the question?
He was asking if we're gonna work with the.
I was asking you, are they gonna work with our arborists in the city to make sure that our generational trees stay where
Yes.
they are? Because our current canopy, that was one of the things some of the people come in town to see,
Yep.
our tree canopy.
So we've had an arborist that we've been working with for 4 years related to these oak trees. And we've had multiple meetings with Park and Tree and with the city and with city's arborist as well, with ours, coordinating every aspect of tree protection on the sidewalk, the appropriate way to remove sidewalk, types of machinery, locations, distances from the tree line, the drip line. We have a pruning schedule that's dictated by the city that we're working with. We've been doing it over a multi-year period of time, so it hasn't just been all up front at this last minute. It's been occurring over time for the purposes of preserving the trees.
You build it, right?
Correct.
So what's the height of the current, church now?
The current church now is 53 feet,
How much higher are we going?
5 feet.
5 feet?
Correct.
5 feet high, and we're gonna keep it normal with the existing footprint
Of
of what we build in the structure now.
So what we had previously had, because we went through a GDP amendment recently, so what was previously approved was a 5-story building on the south that we refer to as our south building, as well as a renovation and increased height on the school building. That footprint is, the footprint of those buildings relative to this one is equivalent. It's the same.
When we start construction, I'm sorry everyone, my name's Alderman Leggett, I just want to say hello. When we get started with construction, the Soto Street, we have a bunch of off-street parking and people who live right behind this structure.
Correct.
Where you have to block off the street because we don't want to disrupt the quality of life for anybody.
Yeah,
especially
so as a requirement of the city, we have to extend and connect a water line loop that helps improve water pressure, not only for our project for fire protection, but also the adjoining neighborhood. And so as a part of that, and for that period of time, we will have to cut open a piece of the street in order for us to connect that water line from 38th Street to 39th. I forget how many linear feet, maybe about 500. So we're gonna be coordinating obviously with you guys appropriately so that we don't hinder the parking on the backside of us.
When we get close to that part, could we get a timeline and give it to our neighborhood association president so we can send a blast out? So we'll be able to let everyone know this is about to happen, this is the next step, a week ahead of time,
Sure.
2 weeks, so that the city, we can work with the city also so they don't be ticketed, and again,
Yes.
disrupt quality of life.
Correct.
Travis, you said that you were also working on getting a new website up, right?
We are.
Okay.
And it'll function similar to the previous one where we can field emails and things of that nature.
So in this structure, we don't have any affordable housing in this facility.
No, in this project we do
Not dedicated affordable housing in that, right?
No.
Okay. Do we have any minority business, minority workers going in to help with the development of this, or MWBE?
So that is something that we've been talking with our contractor about and that we're pushing for him to utilize.
Okay, well, I'm
Yeah.
just asking because that's something that this council,
Yep.
they push at Savannah first. They wanna make sure that we work the people who live here.
Our demolition contractor is in the.
Okay.
Right on
Okay.
that.
That's good. That's good, thank you.
Okay. We are gonna open it up to the floor, but I do have 2 people that had quote-unquote pre-registered, so I wanna allow them to speak first since they did take me up on that. And so where's Jonathan Morgan? I know that he wanted to say something.
Oh, no, I got called me first.
There you go.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jonathan Morgan. I live at right around 37, 38th Street, Whitaker, right there. So I'm nearby the property. Let's see, where do we start with this? I've been in general in favor of this project simply because I'm glad the parking garage has gone away. But in full clear consciousness, as somebody who grew up in Charlotte, spent many times riding my bicycle around Dilworth and North Davidson area, and I've been there to see all the changes in Charlotte. I moved here 22 years ago, specifically to get away from what Charlotte has become. I'm glad to see the copy and paste is being used a lot. That building looks like anything would have popped up in Charlotte. I'm sorry to be the one to say that to you guys. I know you work really hard. You guys have to maximize square foot. You know, if you don't have enough square footage, it doesn't work. And I know that I know you as a designer, you want to make it as pretty and as vernacular as possible, but it's hard to get the square footage. And with fire codes, building codes, it's hard to do anything that's not a 1.5 structure, you know, to be able to meet that. I just feel like it's kind of maybe we could do like a more creative brick on the outside, maybe not the white corners, you know, like y'all can make it look real good as long as it don't look like everything else that pops up in town. I'm sorry, I don't mean to go on to say that, but I'm really glad the parking garage has gone away. And I think we can get a lot of good things. I think Dietrich, you'll like this. If maybe when they do the pipeline on the Soto, we could block off the lane of Whitaker. We love that as a neighborhood. Anyways, I don't know. I hope the best for this. I wish it. I'm just some citizen, so my opinion doesn't matter that much. But man, those white corners and the bricks just look so generic. I'm sorry, guys. I know you're working real hard, but yeah, we like to keep Savannah special, and I'm glad you guys are participating with the neighborhood on all this. That's really nice of y'all. Anyways, that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Melissa Memory cannot be with us tonight. She's out of town, but she did ask that her previous statement, which she basically made at NPC, I believe, will be read by Amy, our board member. Sorry.
This is from Melissa Memory, and she submitted this February 8th at the NPC meeting. I own and reside in a property at 204 East 40th. I have a lot of concerns and questions about this development, as well as the process that has gotten us to this point. First, as incorrectly stated in the staff report, there was not the required notice of the February 8th meeting posted on the building. The only posting on the site was for COA for a mural that was from a previous petition, but no notice of this meeting. Also, there is no mention that the previous COA signed by former city manager Roberto Hernandez was only for alterations and additions, not demolition, and stated on the COA that decision was only valid until October 5th, 2019. If the COA were active, as stated by petitioner, it has not been posted as required by conditions stated in the permit. I further disagree with the staff report's conclusion that there are no material changes in content from the previous approved development plan. I've enclosed a map which shows, and I have all the copies if anybody wants to see it, that the former Epworth Church building, including the 1949-1960 additions, listed as a contributing building by the MPC both in 2016 prior to approval of the previous plan, as well as what I accessed from the MPC website last night. The Secretary of Interior Standards states, in quotations, changes to a property that have acquired historical significance in their own right will be retained and preserved, end quote. And usually such additions are considered contributing if over 50 years old by MPC preservation staff. Since it's over 50 years old and shows the development of the Epworth Church, when and how was it determined not to be contributing? By whom? And if it is not contributing, why is it still showing as such on the MPC map as a contributing property updated in 2020 after the initial approval of this development? Why weren't the very capable MPC historic preservation staff included in this review? If there were redeeming aspects of the prior iteration of the behemoth, there were at least assurances that this development would serve as a community hub. Here's an excerpt from Mr. Stringer's original outreach to the community. In quotations, again, we are so excited to see the unique project come to life and are dedicated to incorporating inspirational and community-oriented values into the heart of what we're trying to build, including arts, home for creative artists and diverse cultural events, entrepreneurial spirit, resource for freelancers and small businesses, collaboration, thriving in affordable co-working environment, networking, social and business networking hub, community leader and strong community partnerships. And community space, shaded and planted lined rooftop, free Wi-Fi, daily community access from 9 to 5. There's more. In essence, a commitment that while the building would no longer be a church, it would still serve as a prominent role in our community, civic space, as it was intended and could justify its monumental scale. The original submittal also included local design teams that have experience in rehabilitating historic structures and new construction that is sympathetic to the Savannah's historic districts. As of last week, Mr. Stringer told the neighborhood that elevations and renderings had not been completed and the use of the building was not yet determined. Mr. Stringer further articulated that he has brought in a new development partner that appeared to have no experience in historic rehabilitation projects or designing buildings that are of quality or design standards that we normally expect in the Savannah historic neighborhoods. The submissions include in this petition are not what was previously presented and are shockingly bad and of an insufficient detail to determine if it is indeed visually compatible, as is a staff review that is supposed to and at least suggest due diligence. For any project, this shoddy presentation would be of great concern. However, for a project of this magnitude, that will literally by far be the tallest buildings looming over the historic church building and every other contributing building in the neighborhood, it is quite frankly devastating. There's not even a suggestion that there will be any activated street level access by the public to the building. In fact, the renderings do not even indicate there will be any fenestration on the ground floor except for a single door in the corner of the building. And mind you, this is in reference to what we had seen previously. The other substantiated, I'm sorry, I bit my tongue and I can't talk, changes since the approval of this vastly different proposal is the pass of new zone and the addition of the Historic Preservation Commission. Mr. Stringer has stated that they still plan to go before the Historic Preservation Commission. However, usually that is to inform the determination of visual compatibility and design. So to what end would this be and when is this scheduled to happen? I feel that this petition should be denied based on the fact that the COA expired in 2019. The design, the designers, and the promise to retain a civic function of the building have all changed to a vague and unclear design and functional intent. There are factual errors presented in the staff report, and what has been submitted violates the historic preservation ordinance and threatens the integrity of our historic district with the demolition of a contributing property and the insertion of a building of size and scale that is not visually compatible with the contributing properties. If not denied, the petitioner should at least have to reapply for a COA following the same process that every other property owner in our beloved neighborhood is required to follow.
All right, I want to give several people a chance to respond to that. Bridget, can I put you on the spot real quick just to speak about process and why and how it's working?
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Bridget Liddy, and I'm Director of Planning and Urban Design with the City of Savannah. And we have been actively working on this project with the Foram group for how long now? 4 years, is that right? So what had happened back in February is that a petition came through for the Planning Commission to review that had to do with an amendment to the General Development Plan. Once, previously back in, I guess, 2018 it was, approval was given by the MPC for several different buildings that were related to this General Development Plan. The applicants went ahead and submitted the General Development Plan, which activated a permit process. During that permit process, the new zone came into play as well. And there's a clause within the new zoning ordinance that states if a petition is submitted, a permit is submitted, then it falls under the previous zoning ordinance. And so that's where we are right now with this particular project. Unfortunately, it will not be going through the Historic Preservation Commission for review. But what I can tell you is that the applicant has been very forthcoming with sharing information, not only with the City of Savannah, but also with the Metropolitan Planning Commission Historic Preservation staff. And they have been receptive to incorporating comments that are not necessarily things that they have to comply with because they're under the previous code, but they are doing that, and we're asking those questions to ensure that we get a quality design. And I'm taking notes from everybody here. So.
Can I ask a question, please? Sure. Who approves those changes for the historic preservation not to be involved in the preservation of a church in Savannah?
Right. So under the previous zoning ordinance, which is what this project falls under because they submitted it prior to the adoption of NUZO, it is a staff level review that occurs with this project.
And the Historic Preservation Commission doesn't get involved?
The Historic Preservation Commission was not established when this project came through. So we had...
So how do we overturn it?
You can't overturn it. Because we, the city of Savannah, did not have the Historic Preservation Commission established during the before NUZO. One of the great things about NUZO is that we are now in compliance with state code, and we have the Historic Preservation Commission, which I believe Ms. Mobley is chair of. Is that correct, Steph? Okay.
If I could clarify one thing, we're not affecting the church. We're only affecting the elementary school wing off of the church, so the church is staying as is, and the use of that church has not been determined in the future. And I would make a comment that we take it very seriously on how we activate the street and create connectivity. And you can see we have 2 alleyways, one at each end of the building, where we've created art walks. So we want the community heavily involved with our project. I would also note, just for the sake of my background, I come from what I would define as your sister city in Charleston, just north of us. I spent 35 years developing and constructing, built over 50 projects in downtown that had to meet the historic requirements, and they were renovations of existing buildings primarily. So I take that very seriously. We're not trying to step on the historic fabric. And that's why at this point in time, the church is not being affected, and will come through those requirements at some time in the future. So.
Yeah, my comment was if you take a before and after and you look at an education versus this modern, we call it traditional, there is a distinct difference in our community.
Sure.
Visualization.
No question. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that.
Real quick, while you've got the mic, I would
Yes.
like you to just talk about your experience, because that was addressed in that letter, so I'd just like you to say what you've done in the past, and where people can see your previous projects.
To be honest with you, so like I said, I've been developing and building throughout the Southeast for a little over 35 years. Built over 1,568 projects, whether they were renovations or additions or brand new projects. And they span everywhere from New Jersey to Texas and every state in between. So, yeah, so Swordgate Inn, there are multiple hotels and really bed and breakfasts that we built downtown. A lot of the city buildings we renovated for the city of Charleston, and again kept the historic fabric. Gosh, I'd have to go through the list in my mind, but like I said, it's probably 50 buildings over a 30-year span. I'm not sure if your question is for me.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It's perfectly for you. Since you have this wonderful background, in historic preservation, in Charleston especially, I know how picky they are in Charleston. Please explain to me why you cannot renovate that building there. You said you've done it before. Why can't you do it now? That is a contributing building, a contributing structure to that church. If you're gonna change the church, which you said you aren't, you wouldn't change the contributing structure.
So first of all, the city does not consider the addition to be a contributing structure, and Bridget can certainly speak to that. She spoke to that at the GDP.
I completely understand and agree
Right,
For
so-
what she's saying with historic preservation, that's on them for not doing that, but
Again,
this is the neighborhood who's saying that it is.
again, maybe we just have a fundamental difference. We don't believe that that particular building, one, is contributing to the neighborhood. We believe the church very much is, but we don't believe the addition is in that regard.
Well, as someone who doesn't live in the neighborhood, it's really not up to you to decide what contributes to our neighborhood.
Sure, and I can't disagree with that. That's why we're following the city's requirements, and they're the ones who've indicated to us that it in fact is not a contributing building.
And maybe you could speak to what about the addition that you like, and we could take some notes.
To the
on what it
addition that
is.
I like,
The addition, we can go back to the.
Yeah, what is redeeming about the building?
what I say about the
school
existing
building?
condition of about the building in itself is a contributing building. I understand it is dilapidated. I understand that we haven't taken care of it, the city hasn't taken care of it. But that does not mean, no, let me finish. That does not mean that it does not have good bones. That does not mean that you can just toss it away. You have the power, the ability, the knowledge base to fix it. We have tons of Audreys here, as I call them, my fair ladies, that need a little spit, a little polish, a little dressing up, and they come out looking like queens. You can do this. It's totally within your power to. It's just whether you want to. And I'm just asking, why is it that we always tear down stuff? Right. It is a little difficult to build things up. It is. It totally is.
Sure,
Put the muscle, put the effort
I
in.
certainly appreciate.
And explain to me why in God's green acre this doesn't have affordable housing here. I was lucky enough to move here 5 years ago to this neighborhood. There is no way on God's green acre I could live here now. But we're gonna move everybody who made this place cool, funky, awesome to be here. We're gonna kick them out. Just like we're gonna kick this out.
Well,
Put
so
the
first
effort
of
in,
all-
folks, put the effort in.
Well, thank you for that, and I do greatly appreciate your passion. So we've done the structural reviews, and there aren't good bones for that building. So that's one of the reasons it's coming down, okay? That's the main reason. It is not a truly renovatable building in this environment. And I would tell you that we're trying to make this inclusive, not exclusive in any way, shape, or form. And we truly believe that with power activating the street and what we're providing from a community standpoint, that will accomplish that. So, but I do appreciate your passion. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, well, we have heard the people that had told me beforehand they wanted to speak. Is there anyone else that has a comment or question? We have time for a few.
Excuse me, Michael Blake, where I live on 37th Street, and I've heard in a couple of statements that this project is going to address the street. And when I look at the rendering, and I look at the elevations and the model, what I'm seeing is residences all along Bull Street. And then they're saying, but we're gonna give you some alleys to walk down. I don't wanna walk down the alley. I wanna walk down Bull Street. And I think that space needs to be activated with retail. That's what we need at the base of the building. Or community space.
Anyone else? Or did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, a little bit. I think one thing that I just wanted to talk about is, and it was said a lot in the message that you read from Melissa. There were a lot of components to the other project that seemed to become lost as a part of this transition of this one building. And it has to do with the office space, the artist space, the retail, the commercial aspect, the artist studios. We had what we called an artist alley from the original approved project that was all fully permitted. That was between our south building and the school building that we were adding to. We've not lost that artist alley. We have just shifted it on the project. All of the commercial, one thing that happened in the previous iteration during that approval process is there were two major things. Now some people liked it, but there were two major things that a lot of people didn't like. One was the parking garage, the parking structure on Whitaker. The second one was a 900-person event space. Both of those factors everyone felt, would cause noise, too much traffic generation. The garage itself was obscene in size and wasn't appropriate. So when we were coming back and going through this amendment, we eliminated the request for venue space use. We're taking the entire space of that church and have now solely designated it for commercial, retail, restaurant type of spaces. There's a 1,500 square foot basement under on the back corner. There's,
I thought there was a plan for the church.
We don't have a formal plan. We don't have, we just discussed it.
these pieces can change, but the point is that our commercial aspect of the project is all now being focused, centralized to the project. So all of those components are still being incorporated and a part of what is already approved. So I don't want it to be considered or looked at as now we're taking away all these spaces and just adding residential. We are still incorporating essentially the same amount of square footage of retail and commercial space as we had previously. We've just traded an event space for that in the church. The historic church will be renovated, and there will be a ton of guidelines and a process we have to go through for that renovation process, which will be done as a future phase of this collective project. The streetscape engagement, or the street engagement, sidewalk engagement, there's the opportunity to go the retail and a space direction, and there's the opportunity as a part of what's in the collective zoning ordinance to go the residential route. There are a lot of buildings on Bull Street that actually are residential fronting on the ground floor and even on the upper floors as holistic residential buildings. That's something we had in our north building planned. That's something that we're replicating again on the other side. We feel like there is an opportunity for the residents who live here to also be engaged in the streetscape as well. Other projects have done that successfully in Victorian District and other areas. So it's something that we're trying to incorporate from that level instead of just making it, a surface parking lot on the ground floor that's, metal louvers and, no kind of engagement at all. And we appreciate obviously the fact that you want more retail and commercial, and there's a lot of other opportunity outside of this project, but we have 16,000 square feet in that church to be able to allocate to that. So we're not eliminating those parts of it. I at least wanted to address some of those pieces as a part of this project. The last piece, the artist alley, the reason that even got brought up from a design site plan standpoint from the very beginning of this project years ago was because there is an art walk and art march that goes down to Soto. And I had conversations with Clinton and others years back about what the overall long-term plan was for that entire area. And there was talks and discussions about wanting to bring it all the way down to 37th. And one way that we thought would be a unique idea to incorporate and connect Bull Street to that event on DeSoto and engage both streets together was to break it up and have that connectivity between them. And so that's where the art component of this artist alley came in, so that there was purpose and reason to transition between the two, or that event or other events that may take place. So we're not really just trying to give you an alley to walk through. It was really taking into account things that were happening in the neighborhood and trying to connect them to other places in the neighborhood. I've lived here for 8 years now, bought and renovated a house actually right next door. So I'm also here. So I'm going to be living with it. I'm committed to this neighborhood too. There are other things that we're looking at doing in both this neighborhood and in Savannah. And again, my family and myself have been invested here for 24 years now. So I remember when, most people didn't go past Forsyth Park, and there were, different generations of development and progression in this neighborhood. We're hoping to be a part of it on this go around and then be here for the foreseeable future. Our plan is to own and develop that church as the next phase of this project, so that becomes a concrete center of our project, but also, 37th to Victory, which has a lot of other areas that are going to come up for development. So I just want at least to hope share some of those aspects and know that it wasn't just thoughts.
With this development, will we have enough parking?
Yes, we will. We're providing all of
in the area, in the
Correct.
holistic area, will we have enough parking to sustain a project this size?
Yes. And we have to meet that, not only for the GDP approval that we receive, but also, when we go for permitting and CO at the end and so forth, we'll have to show that we're providing all of our required parking.
To her point, I just wanted to make sure that we look at our historic buildings and the value of the historic district in a whole, because if we continue to tear down a lot of our historic parts of our district, our historic designation might
Understood, which is why we're trying to
We just
preserve.
tore down a church. Because it went under the no zone. It went under the no zone. We just tore down a church.
Well, I wasn't a part of that church,
No,
I'm not sure
saying
why.
you were. I'm just
but we
looking
are
at the
trying
fact that
to-
this is happening.
We're in agreement. We're trying to preserve this church. We have other buildings that are historic buildings in downtown that we are also planning projects with that will be preservations and redevelopments of those. So we're not going around trying to just tear down historic churches. We are looking at them holistically. We are looking at the project holistically. We're looking at what we can provide. And this was what we felt as the appropriate approach for this project and for the changes that we're making.
I live on 38th Street, 7, hi, my name's Rose. My home neighbors, I live on 38th Street, right off Bull, 17 East 38th, in a street that is full of beautiful Victorian quasi-craftsman houses. And we love our street and that feeling. But when I look at this, I think, I hate to say Jersey City. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like the neighborhood. There's not a beauty to it.
Are there aspects or things that maybe you think could be changed with regards to materials or design that could help, come back and meet to that? Because there are also a lot of, because that's what we really want to get. We want some feedback related to this design, right? Because this is our first draft. We've been working on this for the purposes of this meeting with you guys to take in comments and feedback as exactly what you're saying. If there's issues that you see with there, things you feel would be appropriate to change, materials wise, entry locations, things of that nature, we want your feedback on it so that you do feel like it's more a part of the neighborhood.
But design, you're the designers. We can all make comments and suggestions and put little pieces together, but that's not where beauty comes from. Beauty comes from the elegance of the design because there's some thought behind it, something that's being expressed, and that doesn't show in this building at all. And that's so sad.
I'm sorry?
It looks like a hotel that I would see on the side of Foram Parkway. This is not Starland. This is not Thomas Square.
Are there some factors that we really want
Just
some
walk the
feedback?
neighborhood. Just walk the neighborhood. You
I
say you
have-
live here. Our designer from
So-
Charleston walked the neighborhood more than one time, my love.
Agreed. So a lot of our storefronts on the ground floor marry with a lot of the buildings that were more commercial type buildings that were built in the 50s, 60s, 70s. One right across the street from us that we took a lot of factories, a brick building, 2 stories, glass storefront, similar, glass glazing design as that.
Are you talking about the salon?
The salon. Station 24, that project, I think is where the salon is. No, I'm talking about the one across the street from it, next to their parking lot.
Going back to the COA of it all, that is where the education building is. Then there's a church. What about that municipal building that's north of the church? I haven't heard any plans of that, and I believe you guys, that's part of your whole thing. So I'd like to know about that.
Nothing with regards to that building design or anything has changed from the approval, the COA, and the permit that we received. So we haven't even touched that building from a changing standpoint. So it's exactly the same as we've always had it.
So what is it?
It's a 5-story building as well with setbacks built up on upper floors. It is an all residential building.
So what is the breakdown of the units of this? Is it gonna be rentals? Is it gonna be, condominiums, or what?
It's going to be rentals. It's a mix of 1, 2, and 3, studio 1 and 2 bedroom units.
What's the average cost of that?
We're still working through those pieces right now, but their average size is about 800 square feet throughout the project. Some of our units are 1,300 square feet. I think our smallest unit is in the 500 square foot range.
Yes.
No, understood. We just don't have all those details yet. We've just brought on our management company that's going to help work through all those pieces with us. So we've fielded some emails already with regards to these from our company email address, and so essentially as we progress through that, we're going to share all that information because we would like to actively market it and attract people to it.
Okay, guys, this conversation, we need to push on to other things tonight, but this conversation is not over. We have a post on this chat page already. I'm going to take the 2 people with their hands up before we go on, though. So please continue to give feedback. Travis did what he said he was going to do tonight and brought these renderings of this new building. We're going to put those up. Please leave your comments there. This discussion will go on. But tonight...
To add, though, we really want, if you guys are interested or willing, the purpose of this, again, I don't want to address size of units, type of units, rental, it's really design oriented, right? And so we really welcome any and every comment, whether it's just to share your feelings about design or if it's a specific item, because that's what our goal is to take that in. Because there are lots of buildings, lots of types of design that can be incorporated into here. And so if there's feedback that people have, we want it.
Would you be willing to have an on-site meeting to look at the site as we walk through it one day so we can, I guess, talk about it? We're just looking at a rendering or look at a picture, but just to be on site and see what people are talking about.
I think we're open to it for sure. Again, we're open to any and all meetings. We just want to make sure that what we're talking about is design, because that is the main.
Why not make an architectural design look more like the church? That the church is the beauty of that whole street, that place. Well, if you're taking this down, you're making this anywhere USA.
So this, I think those are
So I
comments that
don't
we would
understand
love
why
to
it should be a little bit more architectural design, just like the church. More stone, more, different old beauty to it than this new construction. This is a beautiful building. It is absolutely gorgeous. But like I said, this is anywhere USA. It's bringing in the clientele of
Anywhere USA.
so people, it's not the people of Savannah. It's anywhere that people are going to come from all the north and come down and rent this place and live in there because it's anywhere USA they gotta live there.
Well, maybe what we can do is when you post all this up, we can take written feedback that maybe there's specific items that you identify in the church. You say, look, these are really incredible, unique components of the church that maybe you can incorporate into here.
Yeah, it's always great if you can also find examples of what you do like and post pictures in the street. Okay, we need to, Joyce.
Hi, I'm Joyce. I live on East 40th Street, and I just had a wondering. You mentioned that you haven't thought through pricing or connected to square footage. You also mentioned inclusivity and giving back to the neighborhood, but you already know that you are not including affordable housing. So I wanted to ask if you could just explain a little bit why you have been so adamant about that decision, knowing, you speak about the artwork on the side, there's artists behind that artwork, right? So how do you plan to, what was your reasoning behind deciding that affordable housing would not be included in this, and are you willing to reconsider?
So obviously there's a mixture of different types of projects and levels of rent, marketability you can go for. There's demand for all of it. From the beginning of this project, we just always looked at it from a market rate standpoint, and we've just continued to go that path. So there's other projects that we've looked at and are looking at that would incorporate affordable housing. That's obviously a huge push that's been happening recently. Mayor Van Johnson's a huge proponent of that, has really pushed that since he's gotten in. I remember, 4 or 5 years ago, I forget the exact time, when I learned that, the bonus stories and other things for adding affordable housing in the old ordinance got removed from downtown historic district. And I was thinking to myself, well, that's a backtrack from where we're going. So we do appreciate, I think this project has been focused from a market rate standpoint, and that's just the direction we've been going. So far, we haven't considered trying to add more affordable units to the project. There are a lot of factors that go into that. Density limitations, height limitations, things of that nature as well. But we're always exploring, trying to do those things.
All right, we opened it with Jonathan Morgan, and we're going to close it with Jonathan Morgan.
Oh, Lord, I did not know I was going to be on both sides of this one. Okay, as somebody who likes this style of houses, I will say that with a slight bit of styling adjustments, I suspect we will have a much warmer audience. Typically, one of the things that makes Savannah look so good is that we have a little bit brighter colors than the rest of the country, just because we have a little more sunshine. And we did there were maybe a few changes, such as maybe like the typical generic brick with the dark windows. I think actually seen a lot of that. Maybe it could be like a little bit brighter color windows with some, you know, maybe some nice big stone sills on them or something like that. Maybe the brickwork would have a few details in it, a little bit brighter colors. Something else I have to say, just as a resident, I'm not trying to defend some developer here, but just trying to say this to somebody. My friends would hate me if they thought I was defending developers, trust me. We're all in a neighborhood where we bought houses for cheaper than they're worth now. And I think most of the people here are homeowners. We did that because we've seen in other places, we've seen our cities, neighborhoods get more expensive. All of us have done very well from that. And it does displace people. And it's not gonna be private development, which is gonna build affordable housing. We have a country that keeps reducing taxes. There's not money to pay for affordable housing. And we deal with the crisis of it, the homeless crisis, all these other problems that are happening. It's not gonna be solved by a private developer. It's hard enough to get the money to do one of these projects. The stuff around this area is not cheap. So I think that they have to maximize the square footage just to be able to kind of justify to the bank for getting the money together to build it. And really the country is set up right now for building some generic, ugly stuff, which is why we're getting a lot of that and all, Atlanta's full of it. So, and it has a lot to do with building codes and just the way financing's done for projects. And it's sad that we don't have these architectural things that we used to have, and we do have to fight. I agree with all of you, we have to fight to keep this neighborhood special. It'll go generic in a second. This building that we're sitting in right now, I don't know if you guys came in here when there's a pinch of the past, it was an antique store. You go buy your antique locks from it. Somebody came in here and had a vision to put this much effort and this much money, and I'm sure people along the way told them that it didn't make financial sense, but it did something special. We have a special place. And this group is actually trying to do that with the church, and they're working with us. And I hate to say it, but it's better than a lot of developers would do these days. But I think it could be made a lot prettier, because I really don't want to look at my house and see that. But thank you guys so much, and maybe I would love to work with you guys. I'd love to style stuff. I'll throw out some ideas. Thank you, Jason.
Okay, this conversation is not over. We will continue it online, we'll continue it at other meetings, etc. But tonight we are going to move on. And now we have something really fun.
Is there an area where a schedule is? I mean, what kind of schedule you, I don't want to.
You mean timeline for the project? Well, I would hope they'd have that on the website when they get it up and running, right? Okay.
Exactly. I mean, is there today, if the MPC has it, I'll go wherever, but I just want to know what's the timeline on all this.
I will check on that and I will tell you.
Thank you.
Okay. Right now, we've got something really fun happening in the neighborhood.
One more question.
Okay.
Where is the best way for everybody to voice?
We already have a post on the chat page where we are inviting your comments and questions that we could not get to tonight, or if you just didn't feel comfortable talking or whatever. So go there. And you can always, we're going to put all this on the website. Yeah.
What we can do, if it works, our Facebook page, right?
Yep.
We can take this, post it on the Facebook page, and start a chat right there.
There you go.
Everybody can comment on.
Yeah, I think we've been really successful in doing that recently, with the wine bar and some other projects, and people were able to input on things. So, but we are moving on. Okay, so now we have representatives from the crew of the Humble Hedonist to talk about the Slithering parade.
Thank you, Jason. Yes, big, deep breath, everybody.
This is our palate country.
Yes, will be a brief but hopefully somewhat refreshing reset button. A little frivolity after spirited and serious debate. We are members of the crew of the Humble Hedonists. I'm Brent. This is my wife, Heather. Hello. We live on the 500 block of East 40th, so we're right adjacent to you, and we are also the former co-presidents of the Baldwin Park Neighborhood Association. So we've run many meetings like this ourselves and are very appreciative that y'all are all here and jealous that you have such an extraordinary place in which to have your meetings. So what is the crew of the Humble Hedonists? We are a New Orleans style parade crew, KREWE. Just a group of fun-loving folks. It's all volunteer. We do, in fact, have day jobs. Heather is a public school teacher here, kindergarten at Garrison Elementary. And I work for a nonprofit trying to make Savannah and many other places more walkable and bikeable. But we are big fans of do-it-yourself, grassroots, illuminated lantern parades. Heather did ask me to be our spokesperson, so I'm not talking over her intentionally, but she, I'm very proud of her, is a founding member of the crew of the Grateful Gluttons, which is a really large and successful crew in Atlanta that has been putting on these kinds of parades in Atlanta, notably on the Beltline, for over 10 years. When they did their first lantern parade on the Beltline, there were only a few hundred people. It was before the Beltline was a thing and they were on dirt. And now when they do it, it's anywhere from 75 to 90,000 people who show up. So we wanted to bring a little bit of that magic to Savannah and our own neighborhood. And because the route for this parade is in your neighborhood, Jason very generously invited us to come tell you about it. And we hope you will come at least cheer us on as we walk by. We're going to be very low impact. It's very family friendly. So the parade is called the Savannah Slithering. And that is because we're having a little bit of fun with the story of St. Patrick's Day. So all of the lanterns and costumes will be snake themed, like our Medusa here and Heather's very cool hat, and this parasol.
For those that actually aren't familiar with the story, tell why, the snakes and St. Patrick.
Oh, sure, yeah. So, you know, the legend, of course, is that St. Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland, and we decided to extend that story that the snakes were slithering on the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean for these many centuries, and they are coming back up here in Savannah because they know that we like St. Patrick, and so they're coming to just kind of reassert themselves as illuminated lanterns. Yes, so we've been having several workshops. We had a really successful one at Lone Wolf Lounge last night. People register and they tell us what kind of lantern they want to make. The response has been truly incredible. People are really excited about this. We personally needed this after 2 years of weirdness, right? And we're hopefully, fingers crossed, finally about to round the corner for real. And we really wanted to launch this back in spring of 2020, but then of course the world got weird. So here we are now. And the route is going to be, we're the night before St. Patrick's Day, so March 16th. We will be lining up in the lane between Lone Wolf and Mood Rights, the gravel lane there. And we're going to walk down Lincoln Street in the bike lane and then turn onto the sidewalk on 37th and then turn up Bull Street, also on the sidewalk right in front of this project, in fact. And then we'll finish at Starland Yard with a big New Orleans Mardi Gras style party. There will be some music with us. So we have a group of acoustic musicians, some of whom are members of Velvet Caravan. Y'all might remember that band. It'll be all acoustic, and we will just be walking down the street, and you know, we won't be on any particular block for very long, so it's not going to be that disruptive. We anticipate the whole parade will be over and done with within an hour. And then on the Saturday afterwards, we want to be good neighbors and good citizens. We come spend a lot of time and money in Thomas Square personally, and love seeing shows here and going to Starland Yard. So the crew is going to come out Saturday, and we're going to do a litter pickup after the parade along the parade route.
And after St. Patrick's Day.
And after St. Patrick's Day, right.
It's not going to be a huge mess, but.
Right, exactly. So that's the kind of long and short of it. We are on social media at HKK, HHK, Humble Hedonist Crew. If you want to know more, I'm happy to share that with Jason, and he can send that out to y'all. And if anybody has any questions about the parade or kind of why we're doing this or what it's about or the impacts might be to the neighborhood, happy to entertain those.
Are y'all having any more workshops, or is that done now?
We are having more workshops, but they are all jam-packed.
But if you come and we have a cancellation or if we have extra lanterns, we're happy to share. So
Yeah.
we want to share the dates.
Right, so the next one will be this coming Sunday at Starland Yard from 2 to 4 p.m. As far as the people who pre-registered, it is maxed out, but we always have a handful of no-shows. So if you want to get some assistance making either one of these globe lanterns or a parasol, that's what we're doing at the workshops. These are $15 and those are $20. You leave with a lantern, it's completely parade ready with the lights and everything like that. And we'll give you some artistic guidance if you need it. But many people have been blowing us away with their creativity, with what they've been making. We're expecting, just based on the registrations and how many people have come to the workshops, that this might have around 100 people walking down the street and dancing through your neighborhood on the night of the 16th. So even if you don't want to be a part of the parade, we hope you will at least come out along the route and boogie with us for a minute as we slither through Thomas Square.
Yeah. A parade is not a parade if you don't have an audience. So we would love to, you know, just you to step out and come check us out.
And we do want to have this be an annual tradition, and we want to do 4 parades per year ultimately as the crew that'll all have different themes and will, be kind of seasonal, probably a Halloween parade we can expect, maybe something around the holidays, and of course something around the 4th of July. They won't always be in Thomas Square, but this one will.
Any questions?
Yeah, so we're going to line up at 6:30 p.m. in that lane between Lone Wolf and Moodwrights. And, the grown-ups will probably visit Moodwrights over yonder in Lone Wolf for a minute, and we'll step off between 7 and 7:15. Okay, thanks y'all so much.
Obviously, that's very cool, and I hope everyone tries to participate, and that can become a new thing in our neighborhood that we do. So now we have Nick Palumbo, who is going to talk about Vision Zero, which has been one of his big pushes recently, and that the board wrote a letter of support for.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you all so much for inviting me to join you, do some cross-pollination. I represent the 4th District in the city of Savannah, which is south of Victory Drive, but it's so good to be here in person and see some old friends here, hey, Michelle, and meet some new ones too, and tell you all about this initiative. I did want to wish congratulations, before we go into Vision Zero, congratulations to Brent, which Brent and Kayla Brown successfully secured a $3 million earmark from Senator Warnock's office for Tie to Town. Yes. If you haven't ridden our comprehensive urban linear trail yet, it's a really exciting project, one of the best things that's happening in Savannah right now. It ties us all together. So please check that out. Congratulations, Brent. I'll see you at the parade. I wanted to tell you all about Vision Zero. For many years, we've been talking about traffic calming, public safety, road safety, and with a new initiative led by Mayor Johnson and this council, we aim to cure Savannah of traffic death within 5 years. 21 people lose their lives on average every single year on Savannah streets due to traffic death. Those deaths are preventable. They are not inevitable. Traffic death is preventable. Through education, engineering, and design, we can build better streets. A lot of them we have out there, some of them are nearby, are downright dinosaurs. We don't need to have highways in town anymore. We need to have beautiful public spaces with safe to walk, and a mother can walk her child on any Savannah street safely. That is the goal. So we have 700 miles of public right-of-way here in the city of Savannah. That's a lot of ground to cover. We believe through an increased effort through the department formerly known as Traffic Engineering, now known as the Department of Transportation, that we can undertake this effort and cure ourselves of traffic death, whether it be by car, by bicycle, or by walking, within 5 years. Just within 5 years. We're going to do that in a couple of ways. One is to be proactive. So we just passed a resolution at the council at our last meeting that within a year the city manager will produce a plan of how he's going to tackle all 700 miles of right-of-way. Every single street, big or small, highway all the way down to the lane, and make them safe. Then we're going to start dedicating funding to actually get the engineers out there. It's going to include tree plantings, it's going to include traffic calming devices, include an enormous amount of education and outreach, for pedestrians, riders, and drivers as well. One program we love to see is Savannah Waves, right? We're going to walk up to the intersections and we're going to encourage drivers and pedestrians to make eye contact with each other because, we all have a tendency to be doing this most of the time. So we've got to find a way to get people back engaged and mindful that there's people out there. And then one big way that we're doing it is reactive through reorienting our traffic engineering program to literally deploy resources out when fatalities happen on Savannah city streets. Those traffic deaths are preventable, so that every single time a death or serious injury happens on a Savannah street, traffic engineers, in addition to the police officers, return back to the scene and they discover what's wrong with that intersection. How has this happened? And how are we going to fix it into the future? And we're going to give them the funding to get there. We even know that your ability to safely traverse the city is directly tied to your income level. The lower income level that you have, the more dangerous the conditions are for you. That's here in the city of Savannah, that's nationwide, and that's an ailment that we can fix. This is a short-term effort for the next 5 years, but it is super exciting to participate in this because it has been deployed before in other cities. We won't be the first, and it is successful. Cities like Hoboken, New Jersey, have for 3 years running cured itself of traffic death on any city street. We know that it's possible. We're dedicating the resources there, and under this administration, we're going to get there together. So, we are actively seeking volunteers. If you go to Bike Walk Savannah's website, you can sign up early if you'd like to participate, because this is an all-hands-on-deck situation. We want to gather input for what works on individual streets and blocks. We're going to come up with a dirty dozen intersections across the city and work them one piece at a time so they can be safer for everyone. So, without any further ado, if there are any questions about Vision Zero, I know this has been a long... Yes, go ahead, Carrie.
And thank you for your email, and Caleb Brown, thank you for taking my email. One of the obvious, I think, things that just really stand out is we have a bunch of tourists downtown, and there's a misconception that our squares are circles and roundabouts, and these are like bona fide designated lanes. So I think that, we need to rethink about like what we're gonna do with those squares, thinking forward, like that corner over by B&D Burgers where there's Ellis Square, and there's like the yield sign there. That's great for those tourists because that's a highly tourist area. But, what are we going to do to deal with all the tourist traffic, which is really accumulation downtown? Think about the tour guides. Like, they can tell you, it's most people that are going to get hit are probably the individuals that don't understand that our squares are not roundabouts.
That's right. That's a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up because it's the design of the street that determines the behavior. So many times we have streets, including on 52nd Street, I believe it has 14 signs on it that designates it as a bike route. But if you've ever been on 52nd Street and tried to ride a bike, let me tell you, that is, whoo, you're tough if you try that. So we can't have wayfinding alone determine the direction of the streets and what's happening. It's got to be a natural part of the process, and that's all about saving those lives. Because we've all had a close call being almost T-boned at a square. Every single one of us. It's a rite of passage here at the city. Yes?
Maybe 4 years ago, Jason was involved in this as well. We actually painted crosswalks on Bull Street. We went out there, we got paint, we did all the stuff, and it was wonderful. We put up trees, we did all sorts of stuff because we thought that was good for our neighborhood. I lived on 39th and Habersham at one point, and we had an accident every 2 weeks. No crosswalks, cars zipping by. It's so simple. Crosswalks are simple. We can even paint them ourselves if you told us what to do.
That's right. And thank you so much for volunteering for that. That was a wonderful project and a great example of, we should be implementing those, and they should remain. They're beautiful. It gets the neighborhood engaged. And those are the type of initiatives that we need to have, whether it be a creative crosswalk program, creative traffic calming devices. And I wish that we had been more forward thinking in the past about this because we can get neighbors engaged on the design of them, the implementation of something that works best for the neighborhood. But thank you for volunteering for that.
Question here. Will this program at all address the intersections on Victory, 37th Street, and the timing of the lights? I'm seeing many accidents. 37th Street, there's I think a police car that flipped over. The lights are timed very poorly, and so you have people speeding from light to light, and you're seeing a lot of, if someone's trying to cross the street on any of those intersections, Bold 37th, Victory is especially bad. You start at Abercorn, you then go to the next street, and immediately goes red. People are blowing through that, and so I can't see that as that has to be included.
Absolutely.
We see it all the time.
All of 37.
She put up the cameras and made a YouTube channel. It was so bad.
So the officers, when there's an accident, the officer has exactly what happened, and most of the time, 87% is someone running a red light.
Yeah, that's right. They're going up, the lights are timed horribly. It would just take striping and light changes, and you could save somebody's life. I mean, it's ridiculous. When I moved here 22 years ago, Oglethorpe Street was calm, and Liberty Street was like 37.
And then they restriped it, everybody complained for about 2 months, and people got the program, and it's safe again. And Liberty's beautiful, we do the same thing, 37.
That's right, and it should be, absolutely, it should be, safe streets should be citywide.
We're
It should
only
be,
talking about this because the neighborhood's more expensive. When this neighborhood's poor, they let poor people die all the time, you know? That's the only reason we're talking about it.
well, the important thing about Vision Zero is it is everywhere. That human life is paramount. For the longest time, starting in the 1960s, cue the fog machine, we started building streets for speed. It was to get cars through as quickly as possible, get to your destination, move as quickly as possible, widen the roads. We need more traffic, more induced traffic, more. This totally flips it on its head. Because for years we talked about complete streets, we've talked about traffic calming, we've given it a bunch of different names. But finally, when we got together over the Christmas break, we talked about it and we thought about what's most important, and it's human life. Human life everywhere throughout the city. Because it doesn't matter where folks are living, somebody that's commuting at work, coming back home on the Bay Street Viaduct at 1 o'clock in the morning and dies because they're on a bicycle trying to get home. The couple that's walking across the street on Abercorn Street trying to get to 12 Oaks Publix to get a bite to eat. They were hit by a car together, the couple that was there. The visitor that was hit at Bull Street in Liberty that died as well right at that intersection. There was another 37th and MLK, and these are all the ones within recent memory. So it's time and time again that they're happening. And we know for this council, it doesn't have to be that way. It's going to take an enormous amount of effort, an enormous amount of engineering effort, and that means that speeds are going to come down. I'll let the cat out of the bag, that speeds will have to come down. Yes, 20 is plenty. So your likelihood of dying in a car crash is threefold higher at 30 miles an hour than 20 miles an hour. Even at 20 miles an hour, you've got about a 20% shot of not making it out alive. So we want to see that street speeds are lowered on neighborhood streets, that you can safely get to your destination, and it's part of the natural process of rebuilding our city.
Nick, thank you so much again. I have one more comment, curtailing back to the email that I sent you right after seeing the press release. Thank you again. But really thinking about, it's not just painting, it's just with lights as well, right? We have them on Drayton Street and Whitaker, so why don't we have them high traffic peak areas that Haversham, there you go. We need them in this area as well. And so thank you so much for getting those traffic people out there, but we also need people kind of walking the streets, some of the police officers to help us do some traffic calming as well. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just briefly, I'm glad you're here, Mr. Mayor. I'm curious, do these discussions about slowing traffic down and curtailing traffic activity, are they part and parcel with discussions about marrying commerce with the residential aspect of the city?
That's right. I'm glad you brought up that point. One of the largest economic drivers in our area is walkability. It's the number one thing people check out when they go to look at a real estate listing. It's what Fortune 500 companies are looking for when they relocate to a major city center. And 80% of the relocations in the last decade of Fortune 500 companies are targeting the millennial generation. Millennials are looking for transit, walkability, living in town, those factors. So we view this not only as a safety factor, but a major attracting economic driver for the city. And also we're going through growing pains. I'm not going to comment yet on what you guys saw here today, but more and more as land is getting more scarce, we're looking at more density in town. People are very concerned about traffic and speeds. We need to make sure that our streets are designed safely so that pedestrians, cyclists, and cars can safely traverse through any Savannah street.
Well, in addition to my question, and why I mentioned the mayor, because I'm sure he hears this question all the time, what are we doing to continue to be a business-friendly city at the same time?
That's right.
And because if you're constantly wanting to add bike lanes and limit, commercial vehicle traffic to some degree, there has to be a happy coordination to make sure that the businesses are able to function to their regular degree.
I'm glad you mentioned that too. So much has changed in the last 2 years about what retail businesses are looking for. The number one factor in a retail location today is walkability. Right. That's it. You know, it used to be traffic counts, but the retail corridors are no longer looking for those. For economic viability, you know, Savannah's got the highest job totals in our MSA on record, total, month over month over month. We have a heavily expanding port. Gulfstream is actively expanding right now. And then I think just about every business under the sun in Savannah is hiring. So we're continuing to see new progress and growth and outside additional pressures from neighboring municipalities, including Pooler, Bloomingdale, Port Wentworth, as they continue to grow. And they are all very auto-driven. They're coming in to see, they want to come here. They want to come here. They want to come see Savannah Rep play like they did last weekend. They want to come in and enjoy the splendor of the walkability that we have here in the city. And they're coming by car. So we need to make sure that the conditions are safe.
I don't know about everybody else, but the hardest thing for me to drive around this town is the trees. The trees are beautiful. I love them. But you have to pull out into an intersection to look around the tree to get out. And that's what part of the problem is too. So I don't know how that's going to change. I'm credited that you're trying to do this is phenomenal. But also the parking. So this is a tourist town. All these people coming in from all over the place. They park on every corner of the street. You have to, again, pull out, and you cannot see around the corner until you get your nose out there. So a lot of people are getting hit. You can't see people riding their bikes down the street because you have to pull way out into the street. So then, I mean, there's so much risk of just driving at a normal thing and changing all this up is, I mean, credit to you if you can do it, but I don't know how that's going to change. And you've got how many hundreds of thousands of people coming into this town that don't know these streets, don't know the trees, don't know all this stuff. The tourists that are coming in here, and they have to fight that. When I first came here, I got slapped. My mirror got slapped because I didn't know that the crosswalks, and I know we need crosswalks and lines. I didn't even know it on MLK that there was a crosswalk right there. And this guy slapped my mirror on my truck, and I was like, it freaked me out because I didn't even see him there in the media trying to cross MLK. So I don't know. I mean, these are just kind of issues that I see every day when I drive. And I've been here for 8 years now, and I still have a hard time pulling out into any intersection.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because the scale is nothing short of Herculean. 700 miles of public right-of-way, 150,000 residents. How many millions of visitors are coming through?
15 million.
15 million visitors coming to the city of Savannah. But I'll tell you how this works. That even cities like New York City, that are 5 years ahead of us, they posted the lowest traffic death totals since the era of the horse and buggy from implementing Vision Zero. It's starting with the most dangerous intersections, you're working there, and then working out from there. And it's going to be difficult. You know, sacrifices are going to have to be made. I love our tree canopy, but I agree that visibility is a very big concern. But we have to build better and continually working the issue.
Just quickly, do you have the police on board with this with you? Because it seems to me that enforcement on current issues don't always, current people parking 20 feet from the curb, things like that. Even right now, those things are not enforced. So are the police on board with you with this so that if the speed limit is reduced to 20, they're going to start enforcing and getting tickets to people that are speeding down the street?
That's right. I saved the best news for last. You are going to see increased patrol coming up soon to a street near you. As a part of this effort, enforcement is a large component of Vision Zero. Beefing up our traffic enforcement division, writing tickets out there, making sure that we're getting through the intersections safely. Part of this effort too is acknowledging the fault of human behaviors. People are going to try to speed, they're going to try to get through stoplights, they're going to try to gun it to get to the next intersection, but designing them better to account for those. And that's really a large credit to the work of this neighborhood association and Ms. Virginia, who started our traffic calming committee. I'm not going to say when, but had started it to great success, and a lot of the traffic calming devices that were implemented have been a great success. We need to see them citywide too. And enforcement's going to be a big component.
Yeah.
So,
and then also the Alderman Leggett, you have great advocates here that see what you see and they're reporting back and feeding back into the ecosystem. The way that you address this is so you acknowledge it's a problem, number one. And number two, you resolve it, it can be fixed. And so here creates an opportunity for us to acknowledge it's a problem and acknowledge we can fix it. The police work for us. And so when we tell them to enforce, they enforce. Now, what ends up happening is do Broom Street clean. And so then there'll be, some of us will get those tickets and things, or be the victim of that enforcement. We're like, don't they have something else to do? Don't they have, so just keep in mind now, part of that, the enforcement comes a huge public education campaign, let you know what's coming. So that when it comes, nobody's surprised. But and thank you so much, Alderman Palumbo. He had midnight passion to keep up late at night, and this was something we all could really get with.